I hope you all are doing well. Um, so this last week has been incredibly intense for myself in terms of energies. I have been working almost exclusively, well, I don't even know how we can discern anymore between what is galactic and what is other kinds of energy. To me, it's all kind of the same thing. That's primarily what I've been working with. Lately, and it's funny because we think of energies outside of Earth as being galactic, and really galactic refers to energies within this galaxy, right? But so much of what we're getting is not even of this galaxy, it's from beyond, so it's really extra galactic, but we don't really differentiate between those. So my mind is kind of like trying to locate terms and references and ways of speaking that speak to this much broader range and spectrum that we have coming in. But it's just so much right now that it's like that's not even probably important. But finding myself tongue-tied, right? Because what we're seeing is nothing compared to what we think we already know in terms of ascension energies. Um, for myself, it has been even crazier on top of what the crazy I already had going on. I spent the last 5 days in the hospital with my son. We ended up having to go back, and he had to have another surgery. So, and this time around, it was just crazy in terms of how I was having to relate to people within this medical environment, in this hospital. And it started from the very moment we got there, having to interact in very, I don't want to say intense, but like very kind of like these deep conversations that I didn't quite understand why I was having to engage with like every person I encountered. It was quite odd. And my son, he is extremely sensitive, always has problems with IVs, which I know is nobody's favorite thing, right? But at the same time, he is constantly ignored when he complains of things causing him pain. And, lo and behold, always the IV ends up blowing out. And so it's kind of an issue every time we go there because they just want to kind of brush it off. And I understand it's children, right? So children don't necessarily understand the difference between pain and things just simply running through their veins. But we've gone through this enough to know that this is him, this is what happens. His protocol is pretty clear in terms of the process that he goes through when he gets IVs. And so right from the beginning, even, prior to his surgery, he got stuck probably at least 5 times before they were able to get the IV in. And so right off the bat, there was like administrative issues, if I could call it that, right? In terms of what was happening to him and the fact that he as a patient had no say in the level of care that he was receiving. And I know like it's difficult because there is a gap that we have to bridge, right, between ourselves as patients and the care that we receive and the care that we require from professionals. And yet there was this strange thing that kept happening with everyone that I was encountering. And I was like, why do I have to explain myself over and over? Why does he have to come to tears before someone listens to him? And I get that there are certain protocols that are followed, and that's just standard procedure. And that's not just the medical field, that's any field, right? And yet there's a lot of things that just don't make sense sometimes. And so it's looking at each person as an individual rather than just a broad kind of, collective situation all the time. And for whatever reason, like I said, usually, it's okay. Like we don't have these many problems when we go in, but it was like every time I talked to somebody, I was having to clarify and to express like his story, right, and his history. And it's like I even had gotten in the elevator. I just wanted to go downstairs to get coffee, I think, and I walked into the elevator, and this guy who worked there, obviously he was in scrubs, and he said, well, how is it going? Are you getting all the help that you need? Are the nurses communicating? And I just was kind of like, please don't ask me this right now. Like, I'm confused. Nobody can figure out what's wrong with my son. On top of that, it's like he was pissed because he knew this happens every time, right? And so they weren't listening to him. And so he was getting frustrated and angry, and he was not happy at all. So it's like I kept bumping into people who were like wanting to help, right? Which was wonderful. And at the same time, it's like, why am I having to repeat this story so many times? And it was just the first day that we were there. So there was this level of, and again, knowing that everything that we are encountering now, it's our field interacting with the energies around us, right? It's our field learning, and our field growing and expanding, and our field doing what it needs to do in order to move to where we need to be. So, understanding all of this, I was kind of looking at it like, okay, what's the story here? What's really happening? And part of it is, a matter of voicing, of standing up for myself, and of not, no matter where we fall in the world, it's saying that, okay, you may be the professional, but I am still me. This is still my energy field that you're interacting with, and I am the sovereign being here, right? As are they. But that doesn't mean that they then have power over you, no matter what the situation is. And I think we encounter this so often in our daily lives, where we give our power over to other people simply because they have a title, they have a badge, they have whatever it may be, right? And I know this has been a huge issue for me in my life in terms of this. The word that keeps coming up for me is professionalism, right? And I think it's just a part of society. It's a part of the, the programming and the matrix. It's like you want to be respected, right? And so the level of respect that we believe we deserve, oftentimes we think is related to the letters that come after our name, the degrees that we hold, the titles that we hold, right? How much money we make. And really, it's like, why does that matter? Why is it not just that we show up as a human being? Why do we all not deserve the same level of respect? And I've struggled with that because, in my career, it's like I thought, okay, I'm going to be an architect. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to have this job, and then people will respect me, right? But it was coming from me not even being able to respect myself. And that's one of those things that I think we hear so often, like, well, you have to respect yourself before other people will respect you. And it's not that I don't respect myself, right? And this is a thing that would just tick me off about when people would throw these kind of mantras out there, like, oh, until you respect yourself, no one else will. Well, okay, but what's keeping me from experiencing this level of respect within myself? Because it's not that I think I'm not worth it. Let me tell you, I've worked hard enough. I know that I have accomplished amazing things in my life, and I've done and been through so much that many people would not be able to handle. And so it's not that I don't think I'm worthy. And yet there is this feeling of being locked out of really living and experiencing life to my fullest in this system. And that, again, is just part of the system. And it's part of this darkness and part of this insidious energy that just infiltrates everything, that keeps us locked out of our own world. And that is part of what I have been witnessing as well through these galactic energies. It's like the recognition that what we are doing here, we're not here to be human. We're not here to be a part of this society. Whatever is going on right now in the world, this is a byproduct of the rendering system, right? This is not what we intended to be here. When we created Earth, it was not so that we could all just go to work, acquire money, buy the things that make us happy, go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. That was not the intention, right? So whatever is happening here right now, like, this has overtaken our world. Our intention as galactic beings was to come here and to seed the way that we have always known to live life, right? Which is to be able to manifest everything that we need, to be able to create through love and compassion, and to be able to share and experience all of this together. And that's not what's happening here right now. But at the same time, as these galactic beings, as these higher order beings, as these star seeds, these original seed races, like, we are the ones who created this world, right? We are the ones who created the Earth. And so much of this has just been taken away from us. We've been locked out of our own creation. So there is this element of rage that I have been feeling over the last couple days, But then also this knowing too, right? Like, well, okay, I hope you're all enjoying it, right? Because this is not the way it was meant to be lived. And so the programs and the systems that you have hooked into in order to create these wonderful lives that everyone thinks they have, like that is going to be going away, right? Eventually. There's always a level of it that will exist because people continue to keep that in play, of course. But it's like we're going over here, we're going back to our original way of living, our original way of being, our original way of creating. And yet, right in this moment, we're in this kind of limbo of like, we're not quite through all of that and over here because we need to continue to work through these things in our energy field. The reason that we can feel them is that it's still in our templates. It's in our templates because that is just, again, a byproduct of needing of how we get here and of how we render into the physical. So, all these things have been kind of running through my field. It's been intense, to say the least. Equally good and equally bad because, yes, these things are coming out, but there's also this realization. Okay, sorry. So I had to go take care of a dressing change, and I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but part of what I was experiencing while being in the city so much over these last 5 days or so was really this deep sadness because I love the city. I've always connected that with being part of a career kind of thing. When I went to school, it was in the middle of the city and just traveling downtown and being on the train and doing all those things. And I always expected that I would, have a job in the city. So it was kind of part of my identity, or at least the identity that I was working towards in my humanness. So to be kind of submerged in this again, and it's not that I haven't been in the city previous to this, right? So I'm not sure why this time in particular was so difficult, but part of it was also, it's kind of what I experienced when I was doing the walk-in, walk-out thing when the old soul was leaving. It was like this deep sadness of having to leave this kind of stuff behind. And it was a little reminiscent of that feeling of like, okay, I'm letting go of all of these old things. And yet, really what was happening was this, again, like I said, this anger was coming up about, dang, man, like this is the world that we created for ourselves. This is the world that the Galactics were bringing in, and here I am feeling completely locked out of it. And so having to change my perception, really turning everything upside down as to how I was really seeing things, and knowing that, I was going to be locked out of everything in that old system, right? It doesn't matter what kind of career I would have tried to go into, what kind of degree I would have gotten. It would have been the same situation over and over and over because I'm not meant to do that work. I'm meant to do this work, right? So, and to kind of take a few steps back because it has been difficult, because it is hard out in that human world when people say, well, what do you do to how do I even label this, right? How do I explain this? So finding that framework for myself of being able to convey, it doesn't have to be all the details, of course, but to convey in a way that, I am proud of. And how do I do that? Because it isn't this label that people can immediately connect to sometimes. So needing to work through that for myself, but also, understanding that, okay, yeah, like I am here to do something completely different. This is who I am, and that time is happening now. Whereas, prior to this, it's kind of been like, is this coming? Is this not coming? Like, am I preparing for something that is never going to arrive? Like I've based my entire, like, this is who I am. It's not that I've based my life on anything. Like, this is just me every day, my energy field doing what it does, interacting with people. And it's the craziest thing now. It doesn't matter where I go, I'm getting involved in these just crazy conversations with people. And it's not even about anything in particular, but just the need for my energy to interact and to be around certain people every day. It's gotten really intense. So, rewriting how I identify myself in this world. For so long, I think so many of us felt, there was this thing going around for a long time where it's like, we don't feel like we're a part of this world. We want to go back home. We want to go back to our star families and all these things. In reality, we're bringing our star families here. So this is more of a home to us now than any of that ever will be at this time. And that is what is so spectacular about the earth. When I look at the earth now, literally I can open up the earth, open up the spheres, and it is these like concentric grids that can be aligned to specific codes to be able to connect to anywhere in the omniverse, right? So it's like everything we need is here. There's no reason to go back out there. The galactic energies want to come in here. They're looking to anchor here. That's what the whole purpose of creating Earth was, right? So there is something very, very special about this planet. And it's like I've never had the feeling of, yes, I felt lonely. I felt like an outcast, but I never had that feeling of wanting to leave. In fact, Earth to me is a wondrous place. There is no other place where you can get coffee and chocolate and rivers and mountains and all these beautiful things. It's so wondrous to me. So I've always had that kind of struggle too. Like, yes, I feel completely alienated here, and yet I love this planet. So we're at the time now where we're having that opportunity to once again connect into our true origins, here on planet Earth. So it's super exciting. At the same time, it's like, oh my God, like we've never been able to experience it to this degree before, even in other lifetimes, right? So it's something quite magical that is happening right now. And I know a lot of people are starting to feel this, probably very subconsciously, in that respect as well, because many people are not aware of the level of galactic connections that they have, although they probably resonate with some of this too, right? Like not feeling like, yes, I don't feel totally comfortable, but I also love this planet. I want to be here, right? And I want to do my work, and why can't I do it? And why do I feel so locked out from so many things? And why do I feel so locked out of connecting with people? And that's all part of this Templar energy. What I have been seeing through the star nations. And a part of that too is also that the masculine energies are playing a really large role. Well, that is their role, is to help create the structure for the descension, essentially, for these star nation energies to be seeded into the earth again. So the masculine energy is showing up much more potently than it has over the last few months, and that can be a little bit difficult to deal with too if you're still identifying with that embodiment of the twin. That's something to kind of have to work around right now too, because oftentimes when we think twin, we think of the person that we have connected with through the human form. So that's been a little bit difficult to balance too, and we're getting all of this all at the same time. And it's really testing our level of containment, our level of growth, our level of strength. Of course, I was reminded today, that we don't receive anything that we're not capable of handling. So if it's coming into your field, it's to really test your resiliency and to test where you are at. And if you're, struggling, then it's, you need to recalibrate, and there's still more work to be done. And of course, there will always be more work to be done because we're always expanding, right? And we're just beginning to bring these energies in, and we don't really know how this is going to go. We think we have the answers, and yet when it comes to that stair step to actually take that step, to me it's always been completely different than I've ever kind of been able to imagine or to expect the way that the energies will run. So it's always new and different, and it will continue to be that way. So the other thing about the galactic energies that are anchoring in, there's been a lot of shifting in terms of grid placement, cities, the grids within the cities, and the grid points that the cities connect to. And this is just really a personal thing that I've been experiencing, but the urban grid system, really the light grid system, it's almost like there is, again, because I was spending so much time in the city, and of course at night, that's all you see is the lights, right? And so I was going home one evening just so that I could be home with my daughter for a night. And as I was leaving the hospital and driving through the city, I started just crying. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, what the heck is going on here? Because I was feeling overwhelmed with a level of, it wasn't sadness as much as just this, it was sadness, but with this huge amount of love and connection as well. And so I was just kind of thinking like, okay, what is this related to? And it's like if you think about starships and you think about the galactic energies, you think about the night sky, it's all about the light, right? It's all about these pinpoints of light, these punching holes in the darkness. And I just got so emotional and I was so moved because really the city grid reminds me of, you know, the star nations and the galactic energies and these points of light that show up to connect to. Really, it's when you see light, it's you're drawn to the light, you want to go to the light, right? When we are in darkness, it's always about being pulled to the light and trying to pull in more light. And so to be surrounded by all of this kind of pinpoint energy and this nodal point grid energy within the urban fabric, knowing that this is what is really collecting in now, all of these kind of stations, these spires of transmission points where the energy can download into and descend into the earth. It's really quite majestic and phenomenal, is really the way that I have been experiencing it. So it's like, you know, again, this homecoming energy. These are what these energies are here to do, to anchor into the earth. It's like this symphony, right? The harmonics are starting to combine to create this orchestral kind of atmosphere. And all at the same time, though, it's like this swell is building up, and yet it's so quiet, right? And so intense at the same time. It's this kind of awkward balance of energies. So it's been it's like a rally point is what I keep hearing, but strange, just so strange because we haven't experienced this before. So anyway, I guess that's really all I wanted to kind of talk about, but just, you know, things are really ramping up, and I know there are beings out there who really have kind of, again, been sitting on the sidelines kind of wondering, you know, what role do I really play in all of this? And this is really the period of time where they are starting to step up and starting to really feel pulled to start to step into their mission and their energy fields more fully. So all right. I hope you all are doing well, and we will talk soon. Take good care.